Giridharadhi Gopi Jana Balaba Giridharadhi Gopi Jana Balabha Giridharadhi Gopi Jana Balabha Giridharadhi Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Dana Brajajan Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Danandana Brajajanaran Jamuna Tirabana Chadi Tiravanacha Jamana Tiravanacha Tiravanacha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihadi Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagacharya Astatarasata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Canto 11, Chapter 5, Text number 34. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chaktva Sudash Nyaya Surepshita Raja Lakshmin. That's not the right meter. Chaktva Sudushchas Surepshita Raja Lakshmin. Dharmishta Arya Vachasaya Dagad Aranyam. Maya Mragam Dayata Yepsitam Anvaya Anvadhavad. Vande Mahapurusha Te Charanarvindam
Vande Mahapurusha Charanarvindam
Jaktva Dusht Yaya Surepsita Raja Lakshmin
Tyakva Sudasya
Dharmishta Arya Vachasayad Agad Aranyam
Dharmishya Vachasaya Karnyam
Mayamragam Dayatayepsitam Anvaya Anvadhavad Vande Mahapurusha Te Charanarvindam. I'm going to skip the back and forth. We'll just go to the translation. Oh, Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet. You gave up the association of the goddess of fortune and all of her opulence, which is most difficult to renounce, and is hankered after even by the great demigods, being the most faithful follower of the path of religion. You thus left for the forest in obedience to a Brahmana's curse. Out of sheer mercifulness, you chased after the fallen souls who are always in pursuit of the false enjoyment of illusion, and at the same time engaged in searching out your desired object, Lord Shyamasundara. Purport. According to the Vaishnava Acharyas, the import of this verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam is understood to describe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, and also Lord Ramachandra. This verse appears within the discussion by the sage Karabhajana of the Yuga avatars, or the different incarnations of the personality of Godhead, who deliver the conditioned souls of each age. The prayers ending with the words Bande Mahapurusha Te Charanarvindam are understood to glorify the incarnation of Lord Krishna in Kali Yuga, known as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived for 24 years in Navadvip and as a householder, and enjoyed immense popularity among both scholars and ordinary persons. His Sankirtana movement was completely supported by the local government, even though it was Muslim. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the pleasure of marrying the goddess of fortune. No ordinary woman of the material world, no matter how gorgeous she may be, can carry in any way compare with the beautiful goddess of fortune. Everyone in the universe, including Lord Brahma, is searching after the goddess of fortune. Therefore, it is stated here, Surepsita. Surepsita. In the word for word, means anxiously desired by the demigods. Sura Ipsita. Surepsita. Paragraph. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna, appearing as a Brahmana, and therefore he is certainly Dharmishtaha, or the most religious. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always Dharmishtaha, whether he appears as a cowherd boy, a great king, or a Brahmana, because the Lord himself is the original source and personification of all religious principles. However, in the past times of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there are very few political or economic activities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as a great philosopher Brahmana and thus he is certainly Dharmishtaha. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the 17th chapter of Adi Lila, it is described that a certain Brahmana, who was well known for being harsh and cursing others, could not enter the kirtan hall where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing kirtan because the door was locked. Being very agitated and breaking his Brahmana's thread, he cursed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the next day on the bank of the Ganges, saying, "I shall now curse you, for your behavior has greatly aggrieved me. You shall be bereft of all material happiness." However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt great jubilation within himself, since his mission was Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, to give up the illusion of material sense gratification, and staunchly engaged 24 hours a day in devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took this curse as a blessing, and soon after, the Lord took sannyas. Thus, it is stated in this verse that by the words of the Aryan, the Brahmana, Arya Vachasa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, yad agad aranyam, and thus went traveling through the different forests of India on the way to Vrindavan, and later South India. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted especially to preserve the prestige of the Brahmana class, and therefore he decided to keep the Brahmana's curse intact. Read one more paragraph. It's a long purport, which will continue tomorrow. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained the word Maya Mrigam as follows. Maya means one's so-called wife, children, and bank account, which keep one firmly bound up in the material bodily concept of life. The word Mrigam indicates Mrigayati, or to search out. Thus, Maya Mrigam indicates the conditioned living entity who is always frantically searching for the latest up-to-the-minute sense gratification in the material bodily concept of society, friendship, and love. Avadhavat, Anvadavat, indicates that Lord Chaitanya was always visibly going here and there, searching after the fallen conditioned souls. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes embrace the conditioned souls on the pretext of religious friendship or ecstasy. But actually, the Lord was touching the bodies of the conditioned souls to pull them out of the ocean of material existence and hurl them into the ocean of ecstatic love of Godhead. Thus, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the most merciful and munificent incarnation of the Lord, whose mercy surpassed the bounds of mundane discrimination in the matter of caste, color, and creed. So that's just a little bit, anyway, a little bit more than a page. But it's we'll save the rest for tomorrow. I selected this verse because it has some connection with the six Goswami topic that is our topic for this visit. In Srila Prabhupada's singing of the Sad Goswami Astaka, this verse is one of the verses he sings. And I didn't realize that until I heard a nice little video, a YouTube presentation by Radhika Raman, that this verse is within Prabhupada's singing of Sadgoswami Astakam. And it's a very wonderful recording. Prabhupada, there's at least two very well-known recordings, different melodies, but both very, very powerfully sung. Really powerfully sung, where Prabhupada is like he's with the six Goswamis and he's singing from his heart. Not that he doesn't always sing from his heart, but he's it's very powerful. His mood, the vibration, and in the very first verse, Krishnot Kirtana Gana Natana Paro. So there's a line that speaks about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this, when Prabhupada is singing the verses towards the middle of the recording, it's an 18-minute recording, he sings this verse. He just kind of intersperses his ecstatic rendering, very, very deep, powerful rendering of not even all of the 8 verses, but when it comes to that particular line, he doesn't announce it. He's in the mood of what this verse is saying. What this verse is, Karabhajana Muni, one of the Navayogendras, sons of Rishabdev, is speaking to King Nimi about the incarnations of the Lord in the different ages, the 4 ages. And when it comes to Kali Yuga, the celebrated verse, 2 verses prior, we all know, Krishna Varnam, Trisha Krishnam, Sangopangashta Parshadam, Yagyayar Sankirtana Prayar. So that is 2 verses earlier. It's very clearly speaking about Lord Chaitanya, the incarnation for the stage of Kali. And this verse is in continuation. So it begins Mahapurusha, because that's in the very last line. Bande Mahapurusha. O Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet. Te charanara vindam. I worship your lotus feet. Chaktva sadushtaya. Chadushtaya. He gave up that which is difficult to give up. That which is aspired for by the demigods. Sura Ipsita. And that's Raja Lakshmin, the goddess of fortune and her opulence. Now later in the purport it's going to give some explanation, of how Krishna and Ramachandra fit into this. But this section is clearly about Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya had 2 wives. First, one died out of separation from him, and then he married again. Vishnu Priya and Lakshmi Priya, 2 of the consorts of the personality of Godhead, Shri and Bhu. The personality of Godhead has his potencies, and his potencies are the goddesses of fortune. And so with deity worship, commonly, and particularly in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, there's Sri and Bhu. And by, in the proximity of the form of Narayana. So both were wives or married. Of course, Ram had only one wife, and Krishna had 16,108 wives. And Lord Chaitanya had one and then a second wife after the first wife departed. But the second wife, the goddess of fortune, no, she wasn't. They were living as brahmanas. She wasn't manifesting worldly opulence. He had this curse that he wouldn't enjoy worldly opulence. Fantastic life of sannyas. But he had the this already the symptoms of Bhagavan, at least for sure, the symptom of knowledge and the symptom of fame. Prabhupada often spoke about how he was so young, around 20, when just in his say-so, within overnight, tens of thousands of people followed him. This is, not big city, New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or St. Louis, tens of thousands of people in a village. Pretty incredible. And overnight. He didn't have a modern technology method of informing people. A Google list and send to people, and we're going to have a meeting tomorrow. Please come. Here's one of the opulences is fame or influence upon others, and certainly learning. Nimai Pandit. But detachment. So he gave up that which is Raja Lakshmi. So next time I should send out the link of there's these two recordings of Srila Prabhupada singing these songs, singing Sad Goswami Astaka, so you can listen. Whew. Whew. Prabhupada's voice carries you. He's there, and his voice carries you to where he is. It's a very, very deeply devoted dedication to the six Goswamis and their mission, which is this verse also. So, Dharmishta, most perfectly fixed in religiousness. So as was Ram, as was Krishna, but from a different position, from a Kshatriya position. And here he's in a Brahmana position. It's very special. So he's establishing principles of Dharma by his words and by his conduct. Arya Vachasa. Arya is being translated in the word for word, most likely from the Acharya's writings as well. Means Brahmana. Because then Aryan, what we've heard Prabhupada say so many times, one who knows the higher purpose of life. Like Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Anarya Jushtam Ashvargyam. How has this non-Aryan disposition come over you? Because you're an Aryan. You know the progressive purpose of life, and you're not speaking like an Aryan, you're speaking like a worldly person that doesn't know the higher purpose of life. And then comes, well, what's that higher purpose of life? And there's stages of the higher purpose of life. But minimally, moksha, breaking the cycle of birth and death, purpose of human life. I mean, there's higher ways of saying what that purpose is, but that's a beginning. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The purpose of Dharma is ultimately moksha, achieving spiritual perfection. Again, different ideas of what that spiritual perfection is. But that's the Aryan, the one who knows Brahman, knows the purpose of life, because Brahman is the purpose of life. Vajasa, and he would speak it. Certainly, my pundit spoke it. But then the Brahmana was this one who gave this curse. Now, he was a little puffed up and prone to anger. So when he didn't get what he wanted, he made a curse to Lord Chaitanya. Arya Vachasa. Yad Agad Aranyam. Aranya. He went to the forest. Or certainly Ram went to the forest, but he took sannyas. Another way of indicating you leave worldly life and you go to renounced life. So renounced life in a classical sense or traditional sense means go to the forest. It's not that you have to go to the forest, but that was a traditional expression of leaving behind worldly and entering into renounced. Of course, there are people living in the forest that are aborigines, and they're not exactly renounced, but it means taking to the renounced order. And one more, Maya Mrigam. Maya Mrigam, searching for Maya, searching for material happiness. So he wasn't searching for material happiness. He was cursed, nor was he searching for material happiness. This is a symptom of all the forms of the Lord, or those who are Vaishnavas, those who are attached to the forms of the Lord. And this connects with the Sadgoswami Astaka, or the Sadgoswami's life. They also, each one, and it's really easy to just follow Prabhupada's footsteps and describe the opulence that each one of them had. Outstandingly, especially Raghunath Das Goswami, but also Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. I mean, we're going to hear about their prior life before they became Goswamis. But Raghunath Das, from a fabulously wealthy family, and Prabhupada gives the numbers of what their income was. It's very specific. And what that value is today is also reasonably easy to calculate. One of the wealthiest families in all of India. And it was by, some clever dealings, which we'll hear some about. But fabulously wealthy landholders. In the range of $3 to $4 million income per year. So wealthy. Now, there may be more wealthy people today, but that's the numbers. And he was being the only son of his father and uncle. He was due to inherit everything. And he, from childhood had no attraction and gave it up. Chaktva Turnam Ashesha, unlimited. Ashesha Mandalapatim. So the Rupa and Sanatan had boatloads of wealth. We heard yesterday evening about Balaram having a wager of 1 million gold coins. They probably had more. two, two boatloads, 10,000 gold coins are put in the care of a grocer, and two boatloads, depends how big the boat was, of gold coins went, from where they were staying at Ramakeli to their family, that which is another place. Fabulously wealthy, highly positioned, with um, within a government. Anyway, they gave it up. And what to speak of the circles in which they moved? They moved in circles of similar influence. No attraction for it. Gave it up. Tuchavat. So um, they did so by their attraction for Lord Chaitanya and his mission and his mood, and they became instruments for his mission and his mood. And so the verse is speaking about Lord Chaitanya, who the Goswamis, this verse that Prabhupada sang along with the Sad Goswami Astaka, is their dedication to Lord Chaitanya, who did all these things, and the Goswamis were assisting him in his mood and his mission. They also gave up everything. It's right within that first verse. And they dedicated themselves with in a lifestyle of great simplicity, of high consciousness. And that's the encouragement that Prabhupada was living his life by, and was encouraging us to live our life by. A life of simplicity as far as material comforts and all those things. Live simply, and simple living, high thinking. So what we need for peace of mind, and for our families, and for our practical services and so forth. Just like here we are with, amplification system and a nice computer and a nice fancy camera, and using this and that and the other technology in the matter of service. And lots of people do these things for other purposes. So we use those things for devotional purposes. But if we don't have them, that's okay too. We can do what we can do. But we have them, we use them. And if we don't have them, we don't use them. And we don't lament if they're, we use them in a practical way, in service to Krishna. So like that. That's the training that we've received. It's the teachings of the Goswamis, particularly the teaching of Rupa Goswami, the principle of renunciation that is part of Lord Chaitanya's teaching. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Nija Bhakti Yoga, his own service. Pretty amazing. So, in the evening classes, for the most part, there'll be discussions on the 6 Goswamis. I'm looking forward to it. I just completed doing that in Phoenix. I'm ready for round 2. It's a nice immersion. It's nice contemplation, and looking up to our 6 Goswamis with great anticipation of their being merciful, because they're merciful, and helping us receive some of that abundant mercy which they're eager to distribute, as long as we're eager to receive it. Let's see if there's some discussion. We have something over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So we hear that
Go ahead.
cursed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Keep
So
speaking.
I was
He'll work on it.
wondering like and that act of the Brahmana was kind
What
of
what happened to him afterwards? You want to know?
no the act of the Brahmana cursing the Mahaprabhu
Uh,
is it I'm just wondering is it correct and did he incur any sin for that?
what do you think?
Um, yeah,
You
I mean
can't curse the personality of Godhead
yeah,
and
that's what I
have
was
no consequence.
but did he know about that part
Of
of
course not.
uh,
A puffed up fellow, you know, broke his thread and cursed him. No, thank you very much. The action for cursing Narada.
yeah
Okay. Now, if it's part of a Leela, is that like give you some reprieve? That normally he wouldn't have done such a thing. It was, out of character for him to do such a thing, but he just was an instrument for the Lord's service. That doesn't appear to be the case. He was prone to doing stuff like that. He didn't get what he wanted, and so he cursed him. But it was a benediction. Yay, no material happiness. Fantastic. That was Queen Kunti praying for that, and he gave it freely. Go ahead.
sure. Is it okay that I had a question from yesterday's morning class about the protection.
Sure, go ahead.
So we discussed a lot of variety of protection that we receive from Krishna, and I was also thinking the example like you mentioned a lot of example. Also like a Kuvalaya Pida how got the protection and Gajendra, a different way of protection that we receive like that, but it won't be nice sometimes, right? But do we according I was thinking about the karma that sometimes we go through bad karma, good karma, but I'm talking about the bad karma stuff happening to us. um, I know it is we cannot get rid of the bad karma totally, but how does that the protection that we feel or we receive in that connection that Krishna is always kind and protect us, how to see that and understand that part of, because I always had this question when I go through some things. I mean, I know that I cannot escape from my karma, but how I can understand this part of Krishna's protection.
First of all, when you undergo some difficulty, it's not karma. And this making that statement is on the basis of scripture. Karma is extinguished by the power of bhakti. So if it's not karma, then what is it? It's the explanation is it's a token. Karma would be much more intense, and it's a token. It's a reminder of our past, so that we um, can remain humble and dependent in the mood of service. Now, if karma is removed and it's just a reminder, then how much reminder do we need? And it may be, and often is the case, there are tendencies due to contact with the modes of nature, which is distinct from karma. There's tendencies due to contact with the modes of nature that impel us to act according to the modes of nature. And it's those tendencies that's being corrected or counteracted, because The difficulty has to do with, how we respond, how we respond to our relationship with Krishna, or our forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna, and thus respond to material circumstances with ourselves as the enjoyer at the center. Like, this isn't enjoyment. It's helping us. My understanding is this: when we're undergoing difficulty, it's helping us to understand a tendency that we have to act independently and think of ourselves as enjoyers, rather than seeing Krishna's mercy as helping me to, reminding me, giving a token reminder of my past tendencies, and looking instead to, um, his purposes and his happiness, which is the life of devotion. It's a course correction and reminder. Now, when Krishna does something like that, that's kindness. Although, from the looking through the situation of the lens of, um, as they say on the bumper stickers, am I happy yet? It's not what real happiness is. Same as the discussion yesterday. What's real happiness? Being fixed in our relationship with Krishna. So it's helping us understand what our tendencies are, is not thinking in terms of the happiness of Krishna. The St. Francis story, specifically. So what's the standard of happiness? And what's the protection that Krishna offers to his devotee? Shelter-taking propensity is being protected, provided that's what you want. And if not, then you get, something else is going to happen.
Can
Okay.
I continue?
You have something more.
Just because why I'm asking this question is, I feel like whatever directions I turn on, like, I feel like in every in my health issues, or like all other things, in different ways, I feel like all difficulties, all nothing is solved, or everything is ongoing, which I'm also looking forward, it will, but I'm depending on Krishna's mercy, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to my best
Fantastic.
to
You're getting the
cover
message.
this.
You're getting the message. Health is crummy. I mean, it's part of one of the four miseries. You got a body, and so it's part of the misery. It's just part of the package. It wasn't a good choice. Let me make a different choice. Krishna is very kind. He's reminding me I did not make a good choice. And the more your consciousness, speaking of whatever all the other things, Krishna, show your kindness to me by helping me to remain always fixed in thinking of the ultimate goal of life, and my being able in some way or another to be pleasing to you and in service to you. And, it may not work out what appears to be so, the outcome, the result may not look so pleasing. But if your consciousness is continuing to be absorbed, when it's apparently it's a success or not a success, or going well or not going well, if your consciousness, the protection is consciousness. And when that consciousness is, steady and fixed, you're going to Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Whether it's Prahlad Maharaj or Maharaj Parikshit, it saves you from all calamities, or you die of a snake bird bite. It's protection of consciousness, whether the external is diminished or not.
Thank you.
Hmm. Anything?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please correct me if I'm wrong. So you mentioned that tendencies are not necessarily related to karma, or they're influenced by karma?
They're influenced by the modes of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Past choices have everything to do with both guna and karma. But the karma itself, the being held responsible
Mm-hmm.
for, pious or impious, that's dissolved by bhakti.
Mm.
But tendencies is guna. You follow?
Yes.
Tendencies
Mm-hmm.
is guna.
It's gonna. Okay.
Okay.
And can I have one more
Yeah,
question?
sure.
And the gunas, um, the prominent gunas that are affecting us
Of course.
are generally affected by our karma, right? Or not?
Well, there's a connection. It's
There's a
not.
connection. Uh-huh.
There's this bucket over here and there's that bucket over there. There's
Mm-hmm.
no mixing of the buckets. It's not like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Choices we make, that's karma, and actions according to those choices.
Mm.
And we're influenced to choose this way or that way by guna. So the karma is dissolved, but the tendencies to choose this way, that way, guna.
Guna. Okay. Thank
There's
you.
a there's a there's some connection. But it's not a one-to-one.
Mm. And it's probably something that's very complex to understand, so it's not really. It's
Just keep
contemplate.
chanting.
Just keep chanting. Okay. Sure. Thank you, Maharaj.
Over here.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, this is regarding the chanting, the holy name chanting, wherein we consciously should chant so that we can be in service to the Supreme Lord. Sometimes I feel like my chanting is more conscious and better when I ask for something Krishna about my needs and protection. Is that okay, or we should avoid and be in a different mood?
No, that's okay. I mean, it's natural. When you get to a higher stage, you don't need to ask those things. But when you're not at that higher stage, you ask for those things. So the litmus test is the absorption in the holy name. Clear?
Yeah, the definition is clear, Maharaj, and I know I'm not at that stage really of chanting. But yeah, but if we have to, how consciously we can avoid those things? And
well, it's as much as it's part of your spiritual capacity or spiritual strength to do so. There's a nice verse amongst many nice verses in the Bhagavatam where Krishna is speaking to Uddhava in Uddhava Gita, and paraphrasing, supposing you're not there yet, and you know that if I'm desiring something that's on the temporary side, it's not the highest standard, and in fact, it's going to implicate me in material existence further. But I'm not there yet. So what to do? Which is your question, or the position that you're from which you're asking your question. And you go on. You're this is my need. This is my consciousness. That's not at the highest level. I'm not there yet. and I know it's going to entangle me, but let me continue because it's the position that I'm in, and I feel it's a need. And as I want to continue to aspire for that higher position. This is, the acceptance and progress theme. So your faith goes to the higher. The reality is not the higher. And so we act from the position where you are with faith in the higher. And Krishna will help you. Stay absorbed. Even if it's in the mixed position, knowing that's not the highest position. Which is another way of saying, stay absorbed in the holy name as much as you can from your present position. So na danam, na janam, na sundarim, that's, very, very high position. That's not, for some people, most people, it's not their position. They want and they want and they want. And it's not like, shame on them or something like that. It's just not the highest position. So we look to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's standard and we're somewhere else. Okay.
Maharaj, feeling that my chanting is better when I am in need of health or whatever it is, it's not the right concept, but somehow feeling inspired. I should not, I know, but yeah, feeling inspired.
You're making progress, but you're not there yet. It's the same question asked in different ways. It's the same question, but you're not there yet. So according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, tapa for a Vaishnav is regret. And that's the same, this I'm not there yet message that Krishna speaks to Uddhava. You regret, I'm not there yet. But you don't beat yourself up because you're not there yet. You accept, that's where I am. But let me move towards that was where I want to go. Okay, something else? Online, okay.
Maharaj, this question is from Rajeshwari Pran Mataji.
Okay.
She's asking, is karma that's dissolved proportionate to bhakti? Is the karma dissolved proportionate to bhakti?
Well, let's take a look at Ajamil. How much bhakti was there? It was, it's in the explanation in relation to that type of chanting. It's Abbas chanting. It's unintentional. That's not bhakti, it's unintentional. It's Abbas bhakti, but it's not Shuddha bhakti. But there's some bhakti. And it wasn't with offense. So those are the criterion one has to look at. And his karma was dissolved. That was the question that the Vishnu Dutas asked the Yamadutas. Who's punishable? He did all this sinful stuff and he didn't do any atonement, so he's punishable. They said, go back and go do your homework. Go back to Yamaraj and learn, because one who chants is absolved. The Abbas bhakti absolves one or dissolves karma, and it's not in proportion to Shuddha. How Shuddha is your bhakti. So your karma is reduced less or karma is reduced more depending upon the Shuddha-ness of your bhakti. That's not the teaching. Next. Online? Nothing. Okay. Srila Prabhupada. Oh, you have something. I was waiting. It was uncharacteristic that you won't have something. Could you hold the microphone closer? Thanks.
Can I say, like, I want to be peaceful, joyful?
Is the button on? I want to be peaceful, joyful.
In your service. So in that service is chanting your names. Is that all right, or is
Oh,
it
yes.
like self-centered?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Very good.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And you stay with that, and that's what your consciousness becomes. But, initially, you may not be able to stay with it. Flickering mind that goes here and there. Okay? Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This has a button, yes?